I'm Alison Erlanger, and today I'm sitting here with Helen Papadopoulos, who's a self-help consultant and author of Phoenix Rising. How are you going today, Helen?
Pretty good.
Fantastic. In your own words, how would you explain Phoenix Rising?
It's the story of how I healed from very long-term and severe sexual abuse.
Absolutely. And consequently, in your professional life, you've turned a leaf and you're now a self-help consultant. So how have your experiences in the past influenced your career?
Well, the help I needed to get, going to different therapists, that changed my life so much, at such a young age, because the first one I went to, I was 17, and suicidal. So it was so transformative and so powerful. I thought, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to help people make a difference in the world. And then it went from there, therapists, getting into uni, doing psychology, not liking psychology, leaving and then doing alternative health, and kind of combining everything over the years and doing my own thing.
So as you mentioned in the book, therapy for you was a bit of a mixed bag. You took your good therapists with your bad. Have you learnt something from both sides of the fence in that respect? Have you taken the good aspects of the good therapists that you had and learned from the mistakes of the therapists that you didn't particularly find useful?
I don't treat my clients like objects, and I don't, despite having the personal experience, I don't push my experiences or views onto them. It's always about bringing it back to them.
Sure. But do you find yourself sharing your own personal journey with your clients?
Yes, yeah. I mean, you have to really. And it makes them feel more comfortable.
Absolutely.
It's not just about throwing theories and that at them, which I hardly ever do. But still, it's more about bringing it back to themselves and helping them find their own way.
And a big part of you finding your own way, as you mentioned in Phoenix Rising, it came down to spirituality. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, because I think there is some sort of ambiguity around the word spirituality. It can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But in terms of yourself and your experiences, what does spirituality mean to you?
I suppose early on it would have meant more about finding God and stuff like that, because I didn't believe in God for a long time. But later, as I healed more and grew up, I suppose, it became more about finding myself and my own truth. So for me now, spirituality is about being real and authentic.
Sure. I mean, given your turbulent history, I can understand your disbelief in God. Did you find that your life made a dramatic change after you found God, or did you find that God found you and then your life made a dramatic change as a consequence?
Yeah, I didn't really find God. It was just like one day realising I was taken care of. It's probably about 20 years ago now. Because everything, like I needed help, and then the right people showed up. Didn't go looking for them or anything like that. And then I felt that there was another, whatever, I don't know what to call it, a presence or a force that was loving and nurturing, and kind of had nothing to do with what happened to me as a child.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're not going to go too far into the actual events. You're going to have to read the book to find out about them.
Yeah.
But you do mention that one of the earliest decisions that you were ever forced to make in your life was actually the decision as to whether to be born or not in the womb, which is fascinating. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Can we explore that?
I think I knew. I think on a spiritual level I knew, and I actually do think we know these things spiritually. We forget when we're born, but just because we have to forget just to get on with it, really. Yeah, I don't know. I think I knew, and it kind of stayed with me, to just not wanting to be here for a very, very long time. So yeah.
But did you have that sense from a very young age that you were going to live quite an intense life?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you also feel on the same page that you wouldn't be able to relate to your clients on the level that you do had you not had these experiences?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were saying earlier off camera that you don't think that there's any way that you would have fallen into the profession that you have had you not led the life that you have led.
No, I was preparing to become an economist.
Yeah.
Going into finance and stuff. So that was like the last couple of years of high school, and then in the last year of high school when I needed help, that turned everything around. So
Yeah, so you speak about out-of-body experiences a fair bit in your book. You've had a number of them.
mm-hmm.
Is there one in particular that's particularly vivid and has stuck with you throughout your life?
Well, during the abuse there were too many of them really, but later, like in my 20s and even recently, like after I started writing the book, I had another one. But in my 20s, the first time I became aware of it, I was in a group, like with a group of people in a seminar. Yeah, I was, strange. I didn't see myself outside of my body like I used to as a child, like watching everything from above. But I just didn't feel like I was there. And even though I could hear everyone and all that, I couldn't move. And I couldn't talk either. I remember someone talking to me and my just barely moving my head a little. And yeah, but on the inside I was kind of screaming because I didn't know what it was. I thought, am I losing my mind? Am I going to collapse?
Paralysed completely.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't really know. But after about a minute or so, I just felt like coming down again. It was very, very strange. It's better now ever since the major healing that I did about 10 years ago, because it's like I drew myself back from a lot of the abuse anyway. Sure. So it's rare, but it still happens. Yeah. It still happens. Mm.
You do speak of a lot of periods in your life that were very dark, basically rock bottom. But an ongoing theme is just that your desire to live has always been greater than your desire to die. What do you think gave you that strength?
I would say it's probably because on some level I knew that there's more. There's more to that. At times I saw it or I experienced it through family or friends or, I don't know, my pets or whatever it was that gave me some joy. I knew there was more.
Yeah.
It wasn't just all horror and trauma and stuff.
Well, in particular, you speak about your relationship with your niece, who's had quite a profound effect on you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sort of symbolism about your niece and innocence and all of that sort of thing. Can you go into that a little bit more?
Well, it's funny because when I found out that my brother's girlfriend was pregnant, I was on the verge of recalling more. And after she was born, it got worse. But yeah, before that, it was quite intense. And certain things did start to come up even before she was born. But after she was born, she looked so much like me that it really, it threw me. I mean, it was interesting. It was, kind of flattering in a way, but it was, it threw me as well. Her sounds, her cries, it was like seeing myself at that age and remembering what happened, whether I liked it or not.
Was there also a sense when you saw her of what you feel that you should have been entitled to, or that any human being's entitled to, which is just a normal, healthy childhood?
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never felt angry or resentful of her. But yes, yeah. But what was more healing was the fact that I gave her what I didn't have.
Absolutely.
Because her parents were kind of not there for her either. It wasn't the same scenario. Yeah, I just was able to be there for her in a way that not even my own parents were there for me. So.
And did that in turn assist with your personal healing as well?
That was huge.
Yeah.
Therapy couldn't buy. You couldn't do that in therapy.
I wanted to speak as well about your experience with the law or lack thereof. You didn't decide to actually follow through with any legal action to any of your perpetrators. So why was that?
Part of it had to do with studying law and finding out what the criminal law was all about.
So you found a couple of holes in the legal system?
The whole thing really is not set up to help victims, so I wasn't going to go that way. It actually re-victimises victims. It's just no. Especially with sex crimes, because they're hard to prove, and in childhood it was, and later on when you're talking about repressed memories, they're even harder to prove. unless other people come out and, like they are now with the Catholic priests and stuff, because they have so many victims and they all come out saying the same thing. It's easy to prove. I couldn't do that. Even though I know others around me were abused by the same people, they don't remember, well, they don't want to remember. And I was basically on my own, no way to prove it. That was part of it. And the other part was my parents finding out and taking justice into their own hands.
So when you speak about this memory loss, this is a common thing for people that have suffered in the way that you have.
Yeah. It's not really loss, it's kind of there buried in the back somewhere.
And I would imagine that this is sort of an innate human mechanism to suppress things.
Yeah.
But do you think that it is beneficial for the individual in the long run?
For some people, yes.
Yeah.
I've seen people just completely
sweep it under the rug and...
well, when it comes up, it was probably better for them that it didn't, because they can't handle it. And I think for some people it is better that it just stays there. But they'll never really be healthy, happy people. They tend to keep repeating abusive patterns in their lives and stuff. But still, from what I've seen, because I've seen some people just fall apart, they can't handle it. So for some people it is better.
You've been to the dark side yourself. So
yeah. Oh yeah, I very nearly, really lost it. Yeah.
So what brought you back to...
I think getting the right help did, but I wanted to live. It's like, why should they get away?
You do say in the book that all healing is ultimately self-healing.
Yeah.
So you can't completely credit any psychologist for your...
No.
Yeah.
I know people who went, they got help and they still didn't make it. Because in the end it was their decision, one way or the other. I can't do it, or I don't want to do it, or whatever. Actually, a friend of mine said that to me once. I said, look, you have to face what happened. She said, I can't do it. So she just remained on meds, and I can see she's out of it all the time. But that's her choice and that's her way, and she can't do it. But I didn't want to do that. Like, they had already robbed me of so much. I wasn't going to let them rob me of a full life as well.
And that's it. You can pay for the most expensive therapist around, but ultimately it's a decision that you have to make yourself. You'd agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. As a child, you said that you felt ignored or even like bullied to an extent by God. What is your relationship with God now?
Just mutual respect. Well, I don't know if I'm respected, but respect.
Yeah.
And love and a sense of peace, and because I don't think God is responsible for the actions of these people.
Do you think that he was responsible for you coming back from them?
Yes, but again, it was my choice as well.
Yeah.
I have to go back to that always.
Of course.
Yeah.
Something really interesting that you explored in your book are these spiritual exercises that enable you to actually communicate with the perpetrators. So, I mean, what's that like? I can't even imagine.
Can
you tell me what the process is? Like, is it a sort of meditational thing, or?
It is a meditation. I mean, when I did it in therapy, it was almost like mild hypnosis, but you're not completely under though, because I could hear the therapist and I could move and I was alert, but very relaxed. And so, I don't know, just imagine them in front of me really, and maybe on some level I am talking to them, and then I say what I need to say. But I was also doing it in my own time as well.
Yeah.
But writing it down, imagining them and kind of writing what I needed to say, and then I would burn it as a way of getting rid of it. But I think with abuse, any kind of abuse, you actually have to do that. Otherwise you don't heal. You have to take yourself back from them. So
in terms of actually writing the book, what role did that play in your healing journey?
Because I was still in shock, there was so much that happened. There were so many memories it was over a few years, but it was hundreds of memories. And even after I stopped going to therapy, I was still in shock about it. Like years later, part of me was like, I didn't believe it. Certain things I just couldn't believe. So I think I wrote it just to make it real.
Yeah.
really, just to kind of have it sink in for once and for all, and so I could really move on, because I felt, in a way, I kind of felt like I was in limbo.
And did you surprise yourself at what actually came out once you started the process?
Yeah. I mean, I grieved for things I didn't really know that I still wanted to grieve for or needed to grieve for. Some of the other stuff that came out about the karma and other spiritual things and why I think it happens, I really hadn't thought of that before. It just kind of came out as I wrote.
So what sort of people are likely to take something away from this book? I would imagine people that have gone through similar things, such as yourself, but it is much broader than that, and it is a very accessible read. So who were you targeting when you were writing this book?
First and foremost, I would say it was other survivors of sexual abuse, but anyone who wants to understand them. Could be family, friends, therapists, because there's nothing really I don't know whether things have changed, but when I was studying psychology, there was nothing to really understand the experience of it. So anyone who wants to understand, really.
So how can people actually get this book? How can they get their hands on a copy?
It will be available probably in August of this year from my website at newagepower.net. That's it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It really is a fantastic read. I very much encourage any of you out there to pick up a copy and have a read for yourself. And it really has been a pleasure. So thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.